Meet the Facebook video ad thief,
that actually works and smells amazing. Native has you covered.
an AI agent that steals your competitors' best performing video ads and makes them yours. Just upload a competitor's video and this agent will analyze it shot by shot, then recreate the same concept for your brand with your product in your style. No creative brief, no production team, just one upload, and minutes later, you've got a fresh, high-converting video inspired by what's already working in your niche. I'll show you the demo first, then walk you through the entire build node by node. All right, let's jump in. Here we go, jumping into the demo for the Facebook video ad thief. Clone any video of your competitors and make it your own for your brand. So here we're going to be cloning a video for our brand, Native. So the first step of this automation is going to be grabbing brand details and building a full brand guide for our company. So we'll just enter the URL in this brand form and the Google Drive folder ID that we want the assets being dumped to, and this will kick off the automation. Now what's going to happen is Firecrawl is going to scrape Native, our company's website, and it's going to pull in all relevant pages that are talking about the brand, the products that it excels, and everything about it, and it's going to build up this complete brand guidelines Google document. These brand guidelines will pass into the next step of the automation to help spin the video ad to make it relevant for our brand. Okay, and so that has completed, and now we have this Google Doc for brand guidelines for Native and a full document detailing everything about the brand that will be helpful when we're spinning the video ad script for the video ad generation. Next, we can go down to the next portion of this automation, which is actually going to be the video cloning section. So the first step is we should find a video that we want to clone. I would recommend going to Meta's ad library, and we'll check out Dr. Squatch, a competitor of us over at Native. And in doing this, we found a good video ad that we think is going to be a good candidate for cloning. Number one, it has a pretty simple camera setup, not a ton of complex cuts, and it's also fairly short. Let's check it out.
If you're gonna steal his hoodie, you might as well smell better than him. The Squatch mini bundles are like a sampler platter, but of sexy man scents. Because committing to a scent is not easy. And there's just no need for added pressure, you know? Try them all, pick your fave, and then go full size with confidence.
Bang. So we are going to steal that video for our brand, Native. Let's kick off the workflow and upload that video file. We're also going to upload an image of the product from our brand. It has to be in 720 by 1280 pixels. So here we have these Native mini deodorants. We're going to upload those. And then lastly, the brand guidelines doc ID, and that will kick off this section of the workflow. So first we're going to have this analyze video prompt where we ask Google's Gemini to analyze the video of the competitors that we're trying to clone. So you are an expert video analyst tasked with creating a shot list prompt for an AI video generator. Your goal is to deconstruct a provided video into a structured, machine readable text format that can be used to recreate the video with high fidelity. And this long prompt that essentially is going to have Google come back with a shot list of each piece of the video ad that we'll be able to pass downstream when we write the prompt to generate the video for our brand, Native. Next, we'll also pass in the Sora 2 prompting guidelines from OpenAI, as well as the brand guidelines that we generated about our brand, Native, in the first portion of the automation. We'll package all of those things up together to then build a final Sora 2 prompt for our brand based on the concept of the ad that we just analyzed. So a bunch of inputs will get passed into this prompt, but you can see the gist of it here. You're an expert creative director, an AI prompt engineer, a master of generating hyper-realistic short-form video ads. Your core skills are, insert this component here, and this is the prompt that will get built up and ultimately passed off to Sora 2. We will be using Claude Sonnet to actually write the script for this prompt. And once all this process completes, it'll save our brand new video ad to Google Drive. And so here we go. We've run this automation a bunch. So let's check out one of the outputs.
If you're looking for deodorant that actually works and smells amazing, Native has you covered. They're aluminum free, come in so many scents, and seriously, you can feel good about what you're putting on your skin. Try a few, find your favorite, and never.
Okay, so pretty awesome. As you can see, there's a limitation on Sora of how long the video can be generated, but awesome workflow that can be used to create a ton of different content variety for ads for your brand. So before we jump into the node by node build with Lucas, if you guys are looking for amazing AI ad building workflows without the complexity of n8n, I'd highly recommend you joining the waitlist for Fabric AI. This is the AI ad generation product that us and our team have been building for the last 6 months. And this is going to be a platform where you'll simply be able to upload your brand and we will generate video ads, still image ads, and amazing winning ads for your brand automatically. It's going to be an incredible product. We're getting really close to launch. So join the waitlist by just dropping your email here and we'll get you access to Fabric early. Then, as always, if you want to download this exact template for the video ad thief, you can snag it for free in our school community, AI Automation Mastery, completely free to join. You'll just go to the n8n templates, find the automation that you want to download, and then you'll be able to download the JSON file that you can upload to your n8n with all the prompts and all of the templates right here in our community. So with that, let's jump over to the node by node breakdown with Lucas.
I'm going to jump right into it and go through the system overview with you guys for our Sora 2 UGC Facebook video ad thief. This entire system is split up into 2 core components and really 2 workflows here. Number 1 is going to be what we see in green, where we build out our brand guidelines. And then number 2 is going to be the system we have down below here in yellow, where we're actually going to be responsible for generating the new video ad using Sora 2. And so the first thing we have to do here for our input is take in the homepage of our own brand. We're going to take that homepage URL, we're going to pass it off to Firecrawl to scrape all of our brand information, like our about page, core messaging, kind of themes about our products, any useful context that's going to help us write a script later when it comes to make this Sora 2 video ad. So after we have that all done, we're going to combine this together and synthesize a brand guidelines document that looks like this that we're going to later use to pass off into the Sora 2 video generator. But this is just building all of this context for right now. So we're going to be able to have that at our fingertips to go ahead and write a really good video script. So that's really what's happening here. We're building up this relevant context, synthesizing it into a brand guidelines document, and then saving that off to a store, in this case, Google Document. So we're going to be able to later use this. Let's move on to the second part here, which is going to be the core component responsible for going ahead and cloning a Facebook or Meta ads video. The input to this one is going to be a little bit different. We're going to actually upload a video. We have to go ahead and clone and spin from the Meta ads library. In this case, our brand that we're working with is Native, and so we found a competitor's ad, which was from Dr. Squatch off the Facebook ads library, and we are going to go ahead and upload that here as input. After that video gets uploaded, we also need to specify our brand guidelines URL, so just of this Google Doc, and then we're going to provide a product reference image that contains the detailed image in the same dimensions of the video for the product we're trying to promote in this new ad. And so we're going to be using this like mini bundler deodorant stick from Native. That's a good one-to-one with the Dr. Squatch ad we uploaded. So all of those inputs are required here in order for the system to work. After we get those inputs in, we're then going to move on to reverse engineering the video that we uploaded with Gemini 2.5 Pro. Gemini has this video understanding API that's going to allow us to just pass in the raw bytes from a video, and then it's going to analyze and break down what's happening in this video ad step by step, and so we have more context at our fingertips to recreate this. So that's going to be an important part here happening in this node. After that's done, we then go forward actually making another large language model call into Claude, giving the context of our competitor's ad script and our brand guidelines, so we can go forward actually spinning the script in accordance to our brand guidelines and can effectively promote our kind of native mini bundle deodorant stick product. We're going to also pass in the Sora 2 prompting guide just so Claude has good context on how to write a really good Sora 2 prompt. So we analyze with Gemini 2.5 Pro, we're going to write a new script with Claude, passing in all of that context, and now it comes time to actually generate our brand new ad, going ahead and using the Sora 2 API. So we're going to run through the pipeline here, and in this node, this is where we're going to be calling into the Sora 2 API to go ahead and generate that video. We'll wait for the result, and then we're going to go ahead and download that final video and save that in Google Drive for us to later review. That's the system overview. Let's now move on to the node by node build out. Let's now jump into n8n and go through the first component, which is going to be the workflow responsible for building our brand guidelines. I'm going to kick this off so we can see what data looks like running through the entire automation. And so I'm going to paste in the website for the Native deodorant company. And then I'm going to come back to Google Drive here and grab the ID of the folder I want to save it in. That's just going to be the characters and string that appears after the /folders/. We're going to go ahead and pop in that Google Drive folder ID and kick this off. As this is running, we can go ahead and jump into a couple of these key nodes here to see what is happening. The first thing we're going to do here is to actually call into the Firecrawl community node. I can find just by searching Firecrawl on the right hand side. And we're going to be using this operation called map a website and get URLs. This is going to be something that's baked into the Firecrawl node that allows us to basically kind of quickly scan or crawl a website with certain search parameters. And so what we're trying to do in this step is actually build out a comprehensive brand document that works for any website. We're going to be using the search operation here that includes terms like home, about, company, mission, how it works, membership, shop. Just some generic terms for many different e-commerce and D2C brands that's really going to capture what the brand is about and kind of what their core product offerings are about. If this isn't working for you, or you're hitting kind of an edge case here with a specific company, you can change this however you want. This is just a set of keywords I search for that works well for me. And so if we come over to Firecrawl, we're going to go ahead and see that we have our map docs pulled up here. And basically what this does is we input a website and get all of the URLs from the website very quickly. So like I said, we're quickly crawling the website and we're getting back a result list here of many different links that we can later go forward with scraping. And so we're not actually scraping on this step quite yet. We're just building up a list of links. The next part here is going to be then kind of doing some data cleanup where we split out that resulting list of URLs. So we want to split out each of these links. And so we can see we have our URL, our title, and description of the page. And then we're going to actually go forward to Firecrawl again to go ahead and scrape those URLs one by one. So we're going to see we have 11 items get passed in here for URLs that we want to scrape. And then after we scrape this, we're going to see 11 items get outputted on the other side. So this is pretty easy to set up with Firecrawl. We're just going to use this operation called scrape a URL and get its content. And then underneath this URL parameter here, we're going to specify an expression where we just paste in $JSON.URL value, which is dynamically going to insert all 11 of these URLs one by one and scrape those pages individually. We can see we have these scraping results that get piped out, and we have all of this data that's going to be really helpful for us to use when it comes time to bundle this together into a brand guidelines document. The main thing we want to look at is going to be this markdown field here that concludes the well-formatted markdown for us to later easily pass into a large language model. If I pull this up again, I left most of these as default here. The main thing I want to call out is going to be this format array underneath scrape options. I just specified markdown here as that's the format we want to work with. Pretty much for most other use cases, you can leave everything here as default. But if you do find you're hitting an issue or not getting back the data you need, maybe it's like a JavaScript heavy website, you can go to the scrape documentation here and look through the docs on how you can set up some of these different options. Maybe you need to proxy the data, maybe you need to wait for the page to load. That's all things you can control here in Firecrawl. The other thing I want to call out here is the credential. This is just going to be a new built-in credential that Firecrawl offers, really easy to set up. All you need to do here is get your API key from the Firecrawl dashboard, paste that in, and then you're going to have your credential set up and later to use for any other Firecrawl community node. So we have our website mapped, we have our URL scraped for markdown data. Next, it comes time to do one more scraping operation, which is just going to guarantee we get the homepage. So instead of just assuming we're always going to have the homepage here, I like to make sure that I'm just manually scraping the homepage from our form input from before, where we're looking at the brand website URL, just to ensure we have the homepage in the data set. There's a lot of key messaging, helpful information about the products and core company offering that is usually on homepages. And so this is just a step I like to follow in order to make sure I have that data at my fingertips when it comes time to build out our brand guidelines document. Let's go forward to the next node here, which is going to be a simple set field node where we're going to be able to specify and set some data. So let's jump into the prompt here, and so you guys can get a better idea of how we approach this. I won't go through every part of this, so if you want to download this prompt and get access to this full n8n automation template, make sure you join our school community, which is going to be the very first link in the description of this YouTube video. After you get into the community, you can click on n8n templates, and then you're going to be able to see all of the videos we have covered here. And if you pull this up, you're going to be able to download the JSON n8n template, and then just import that into your n8n instance to get access to all the prompts and the full template set up here, just like I have it. So be sure to do that to get access to everything here. Let's go back to the prompt. So if I pull this up for our expression, we can see we have role and goal, instructions, and then some output formats for the brand guidelines we're really trying to build. So let's just read through role and goal right now so we can see what's happening. You are an expert brand strategist and marketing analyst. Your task is to analyze the provided scraped website content from a company or product and synthesize it into a comprehensive brand guidelines document. This document's primary purpose is to serve as the foundational context for an AI-powered advertising system. Therefore, your analysis must be sharp, marketing focused, and extract actionable insights for creating compelling on-brand ad copy. Pretty clear here what we're trying to set up. Let's move on to some of the key instructions. So we're trying to adopt the persona of what the ideal buyer is for whatever brand we're working with. We're specifying we need the AI model to perform deep analysis on whatever content or context we're providing it. This is just a helpful hint to nudge the model to think maybe a little bit further than if you didn't include that. We're going to have it infer and synthesize the final brand guidelines, and so the content may not explicitly state everything. You should be able to use the context that is provided and kind of infer some things to be able to create this complete brand guidelines document. And finally, we're just going to be able to expand here on the structure being key. We have an output format defined below, and we want to make sure that no matter what brand we're passing in here as input, we're going to follow the same brand guideline structure that gets created right here. We want this to be consistent and have helpful context here to later build out our AI video ads. So let's scroll down to the bottom here, and we can see then after we go past the full format, we're going to have our input section defined right here. So this is where we're going to pass in the array where we map out all of that markdown content we just scraped from our website. And then we're going to have the individual markdown content that was extracted from the homepage. So we're just inserting this here dynamically regardless of what website we passed in. So that covers it for building the prompt. The next step is going to be actually jumping into this node here, which is a basic LLM chain call that we have hooked up to Gemini 2.5 Pro. What we're going to do is pass in that prompt we just went over from before, as well as all of that raw markdown content, and have it execute that prompt. Using Gemini 2.5 Pro. The reason I chose Gemini 2.5 Pro here is really due to its really large context window. If we're scraping a big website or there's a lot of content that needs to get included in our prompt here for writing the brand guidelines, I want to make sure the AI model can handle it, and I found that Gemini Pro works the best for these really large context windows. Let's go forward into a couple of our final nodes here. The next step is going to be taking this markdown output content we have right here. So that's something that also it was specified in the prompt. We only want markdown content returned with, these pound signs for the headings. That's going to allow us to format this much better here in the final Google Doc we create. So the next step is to take that markdown content and go ahead and convert it into HTML using this node right here. And so if I go back, we can search for markdown, and that allows us to convert data between markdown and HTML. When working with the Google Drive API to create this document, HTML is going to be required for us to do this effectively. And so that's why we have this node in place. The next step is going to be another set field node where we go forward, specifying a couple of the important properties necessary to create our Google document. So we're going to have the document name. That's going to be the title of this. We're going to have the HTML content, which is what we just processed from before. And then we have the drive folder ID, which is going to be what we grabbed from our initial form trigger when we kicked off this part of the automation. Moving on, we're going to use a custom JavaScript code node right here that is going to perform kind of some data transformation on our inputted HTML. The format of data that the Google Docs API requires is a little bit weird. We're not able just to paste in only HTML code. We kind of have to set up this document that we see right here with a couple of different styles. And so this JavaScript node does that processing for us. And honestly, you don't need to know everything going on here. You can just copy and paste this if you download the template or use it directly. But basically, we're setting up the dividers, some styles for different types of headings. So everything's going to look nicely in our formatted Google document. And finally, on this node, this is an HTTP request node where we're going to go ahead and post all of this data we've prepared to this URL right here. This is going to be googleapis.com upload drive v3 files, where we post a new document that we want to create. I do want to call out there is a Google document node you can use built into n8n, but I like to approach it this way because it allows us to retain all of the nice formatting we see here with headings, bolted lists, things like that, in order to make our document look good. If you use the built-in Google document node, you're just going to see a lump of plain text that makes it kind of hard to see how all of the formatting and sections are broken down. So I like it this way. Going back to this HTTP request, I'm going to be using a predefined credential type. using the Google Drive OAuth 2 API. And then I'm just going to connect to this existing credential I've already set up here. I won't be going through the connection step. If you would like to see me put together another guide on how to set up this credential, please leave a comment down below in this video, and we'll consider that in the future. The next thing we have to cover here is going to be our parameters. We have to specify both query parameters and a body to send off to this API. Toggle on send query parameters. I'm just going to use the using fields below option, and we're going to pass in this upload type as multi-part. And then we're going to use this supports all drives option set to true. Going down into the send body, we're going to use the raw body content type. We're going to specify this string here for what the content type actually is, so Google Drive knows what to accept from us. And then we're going to pass in an expression here that contains the JSON.raw data we've prepared before in our JavaScript code block. And so we can see we have all of this data here formatted as HTML code with some dividers inserted and some special styles needed to work with Google Drive. And that is going to be responsible for going off and creating our Google Doc. So after this gets submitted, we should get a successful response back with some metadata that looks like this. So we have the ID here. We can go ahead and actually pull this up in our Google Docs. And then we're going to see that brand new document that is created and well formatted with everything we scraped. The final node I have here is another set result where I'm just going to extract those properties like the document ID and the document URL. So it's nicely formatted that we can later email to ourselves, share in Slack, or do anything else we need with it. You can really tweak that however you need. So that covers it here for building out our brand guidelines. In the next step, like I mentioned in the system overview, this brand guidelines is going to get passed into this next workflow along with the ad we want to clone and our product reference image. So we'll jump into that next and start making this Sora 2 UGC video. Let's now run our UGC video generator trigger here so we can see what data looks like as it flows through the process to create our video ad. So I'll kick this off and we can start filling out the required inputs here. The first thing I'm going to add in is actually the brand guidelines doc ID that we just created in the workflow from before. And so you can just copy this here from the URL in Google Drive to get that value. The next two parts are going to be the video and image assets we have to provide so Gemini and Claude have the full context necessary to go ahead and write and generate our new script that's going to get passed off to Sora 2. So I'll pull up this once again, and we need our ad video file here, which is going to be this video ad from Dr. Squatch. And we'll upload that. And then we need our own product image here, which is going to be something I prepared, which is a 720 by 1280 image that features our product. So it's this one item out of a native mini bundle, which is this tiny deodorant that we want to have included in our video and have it held in the hands of whatever AI avatar is actually talking about it. So we're going to go ahead and submit this, and that is going to kick everything off. So the first thing we do here is use this node that converts data from binary data to JSON, and we're going to run this against both our ad video file and our product image. When working with APIs like Gemini 2.5 Pro and some others, a lot of times you're not able just to upload a binary file into your API call, and so instead we use this node here where we convert it into JSON data. That's going to give us something called a base 64 string that's going to allow us to have all of the data encoded here as a really long string of text. And so all of this data here is the exact same as what we have in our image and video. This is just a different way to represent that data and work with the Gemini API. So let's move to the next node here. This is going to be a set field node where we go ahead and set our ad analysis prompt. That's going to get passed off to the Gemini 2.5 Pro API. And so like what we covered in our system overview here, what we want to do is kind of reverse engineer the ad that was passed in through the form trigger upload. And so if we just read out the role here, this should give you a better idea of everything that is going on. So you are an expert video analyst tasked with creating a shot list prompt for an AI video generator. Your goal is to deconstruct a provided video into a structured machine-readable text format that can be used to recreate the video with high fidelity. Your analysis must be chronological, breaking the video down into distinct shots. A new shot is defined by a camera cut. Adhere strictly to the following markdown format for your output. And then we showcase here what a shot-by-shot breakdown actually can look like, with the shot number, timestamp, visuals going on, some technical cinematography details, and then some of the background ambience going on, like what's in the background of the video, what is the VFX going on in the background, things of that nature. Pretty detailed here of what we're trying to extract, and this whole system prompt is going to get passed off to the Gemini API along with our video. So in order to do that, we're going to pull up this node here and make an HTTP post request into this URL. So we're posting into generativelanguage.googleapis.com, v1 beta, models, and then we're going to specify Gemini 2.5 Pro, followed by : generate content. This is just the way you work with Gemini 2.5 Pro that allows you to pass in some of this other data outside just a regular prompt. And so that's why I like to set up my request this way instead of using the built-in node. The next part we need here is going to be our authentication credential. I'm using a generic credential type. We're using header authentication, and then I've already set up a Google Gemini credential here. I won't cover this in the video, but if you go to Google AI Studio, click this, and then click on create an API key. That's going to take you through the process to go ahead and get your API key that you need to use for this credential. And if you also click on API Quick Start and then scroll down here to one of the requests where it says REST, it's going to show you how to set this up in your generic header credential. So we use this API key, header name, and then you're going to just pass in your API key as the value in order to configure this. So I'm not going to go through that now. I'm just going to use my existing credential here. The next thing we need to configure is going to be the body of our HTTP request. So we'll toggle on send body, and we're going to send this JSON structure we have defined below. So click on JSON as the body content type, set using JSON as specify body, and then we're going to build an expression here for the JSON we want to send over. There's really two parts we need here for our request into Gemini 2.5 Pro. One at the bottom here is going to be our text prompt, where we're simply doing json.stringify, and we're going to take in the prompt we built from before. And so that's going to be at the very bottom. If we scroll down, there's a lot of data here. That's going to be our text prompt from before. And then the other part to this is going to be actually passing in our video file that we had uploaded into the form. And so this is going to be what we have here. So our source UGC ad.
If you're gonna steal his hoodie, you might as well smell better than him.
So we're passing in the base 64 encoded representation of this entire video. And so you can see there's a lot of data going on here that is able to encode everything happening in that video. So Gemini 2.5 Pro is able to know about the frame-by-frame contents. So that's all you need here to pass this into Gemini. And then we're going to let that execute. And we're going to see here at the result of this, we have this complex response here that has candidates, contents, parts. And finally, within there, we have our text output, which includes our shot-by-shot scene breakdown of that provided video. Let's go here to the next node so we can see this a little bit easier. And so I have another set field node here. Once again, I'm just going to call result and build out this simple expression here to extract everything that's a little bit more readable and easier to debug if you're not getting the shot list or output you like. So highly recommend you follow this pattern where you use set field nodes just to split up the result instead of having to look at some ugly nested JSON. So we have our global context, we have our shot-by-shot breakdown, all of the text being said and appearing on the screen, and all of that other technical shot breakdown we were asking for when we were prompting from before. So this looks great. This is some really good context we're going to be able to take and go forward throughout the rest of the automation. Moving on, the next step is going to be a simple HTTP request going into Firecrawl once again, where we're requesting to scrape the Sora 2 brand guidelines. So if we pull this up, we can see that we're passing this URL into Firecrawl's scrape endpoint, which if I come back here, go to the docs and look at scrape, this is basically just taking a single URL and turning it in to markdown content to work with LLMs better. So we're passing in this URL here, which is going to be OpenAI's cookbook for prompting Sora 2. So I'll pull it up here so you can see it. And this is a really good guide from OpenAI themselves on how to best work with Sora 2 to get high quality video output. And so when I was building this automation, I saw this and figured it would be best if we could bundle this context together in a prompt we're working with so that Claude is able to have this at its fingertips on how to best write a Sora 2 prompt. Because Claude may not know about Sora 2 yet, and so we got to bundle this context together to make that easy for them to work with. So we're making a request here, and if we look through this, we're going to see that I'm not actually using the Firecall community node like we did before. So this is the Firecall community node, and then on this one, I'm using an HTTP request. The reason for that is because I wanted to set up a custom JSON schema we have here to go ahead and extract only the main contents of the page. So if you use scraping by default, sometimes Firecall gives you some extra data back, like nav links on the side or different parts of the page that may not be super relevant. And so I set up this schema here that gives me only the main text content from the page returned in Markdown format. And so here's the prompter that does that. This works pretty well for me. I've used this in a couple of other different places. And so feel free to copy this and use that for yourself after you download this template. But after this runs, we're going to go ahead and see here toward the bottom under our result back from the API, we have this JSON and then content part of the response. And so we have the Sora 2 prompting guide, and it says crafting a successful video prompt. And then if we come here, we should see we have this match the title and that match the heading. So we're getting that text back as we need. And that is going to give us some great context for us to proceed. The other context we have to build up is going to be grabbing our brand guidelines. So that's going to be happening here in this Google Doc node, where we're simply, if you search for Google Doc, we can use the simple get a document operation. So if I pull this up, we have that already connected with our Google Docs credential. We're going to use the documents resource, and then we're going to dynamically pass in an expression to go ahead and grab our brand guidelines doc ID from our form trigger input. So that's the ID we passed in from before. That's going to let us load up all of this context here to later craft our script. And so that's really all we've done so far is we've kind of gathered the context needed for the source UGC video ad using Gemini here. We've gone ahead and fetched the Sora 2 prompting guidelines gathered here. And now we've gone ahead and gathered our brand guidelines we built out from before that can all be bundled together to go ahead and write our perfect UGC video ad script spun for our own brand. So let's jump into that next. That's going to happen in this set field node and then the actual API call where we call into Claude to go ahead and write that script for us. So I'll pull this up and we can see we have this massive prompt here that is going to break down all of the context and how to write an effective script for us. So let's go through the role and a couple other key points of this prompt. You are an expert creative director and AI prompt engineer, a master of generating hyper-realistic short-form video ads. Your core skills are ad concept transposition, ensuring pixel-perfect product representation, and a specialized expertise in directing dynamic physical interaction. You craft prompts that overcome common AI weaknesses by describing not just the scene, but the physics, weight, and sensory details of every interaction, especially hands holding objects. So there's a lot here detailing hyperrealism and kind of some of the weird physics dynamics. This is because when I was building this out, there was a lot of weirdness happening with getting the product in hand. And so this was my attempt on how to improve that so we can get hyper-realistic UGC video ads and you're not wasting your credits with some janky generations that have, the wrong number of fingers or some weird physics going on. So let's look at the mission here. Your mission is to synthesize the provided inputs to generate a new Sora optimized video prompt. You will transpose the narrative from the source concept, which is the analysis of the shot breakdown we got from before, to create an ad that embodies the target brand identity. That's going to be the identity of the brand guidelines we put together in the previous automation. And it maintains absolute product visual integrity of the source product image we uploaded. And then the final output must be a prompt for a textless master video that features hyper-realistic physical interactions and concludes definitively within a strict 12-second total runtime. And so that's something that's set up just due to the Sora 2 time limit generations for right now. Want to make sure that there's no text getting spoken at the beginning or the end, kind of cutting off the dialogue and narrative we're going for in this video ad. And so that helps to prompt here, just so you don't get your AI actor or AI avatar actually cutting off mid-sentence. So then just going through the rest of the prompt at a high level, we're going to break down our inputs. We're going to deconstruct the process that the AI needs to follow in order to fulfill this task successfully. And so there's a lot of detail here. And finally, we're breaking down the output format and then passing in all of that context that we've been working from before to get into here. So we have our ad shot-by-shot breakdown. We have the brand guidelines we put together. And then we have the Sora 2 prompting guide, all at the disposal of this AI model to write us a really good script. Once that prompt is put together, we're simply going to make a basic LLM chain call into Claude Sonnet 4.5 with our prompt, and we're just going to get this raw text here back as our output. With that text in hand, we can see here, we're just going to grab that prompt result in a simple expression. So we can see the breakdown of, actions, the background, what the core scene description is, everything needed for Sora 2 to go forward, creating a great video following their prompting guidelines. So this looks great. I think we have our context put together. We have our script ready. Now it's time to actually go forward, generating our video. So in the next couple of notes here, we have a little bit of data cleanup here where we merge together those base 64 encoded strings from our image, just so we can pass this off to Sora. We're going to aggregate that together so we don't execute these nodes twice. And then actually working with the Sora 2 API, we are able to pass off a binary image. So instead of using base 64 here, like what we did with Gemini, we're going to convert back using the file node where we convert JSON data back to binary data in this node right here. And so we have our JSON data here in this field from our aggregation node, which is going to be the base 64 encoded data for our product reference image. So if we look this up here, we're going to see this exact same image we uploaded, converted back into an n8n binary file, which is what we want. After that's done, we then make an HTTP call into the Sora 2 API using this product image, and then the resulting script we wrote from Claude Sonnet. So a lot of moving parts here, but we've gone from context to script writing, and now we're going to pass all of that output that we need into the Sora 2 API here at api.openai.com v1 videos. If you've already set up OpenAI's API from before, you can use a predefined credential type and describe your OpenAI credential that you've already used for something like ChatGPT or any of their other models. The next thing we have to do here is build out the request body. We're going to use form data on this part, which is specified in the Sora 2 docs, which you can just find on the Sora 2 website. And what we need to pass in here are going to be the specific video parameters to get the output we need. So we have our prompt, and that's going to be the prompt we generated with Claude. We have the model we want to use, which is going to be Sora 2. If you want something a little bit higher in quality, you can actually use Sora 2 Pro. And then we have to specify the length and seconds of the video we want to generate. And so we're going to specify 12 here to match what we built out in the prompt from before, saying this needs to fit into a 12-second script. Going down, we have the size of the video we want to generate. This is going to be the dimensions of the video, whether it's a portrait or landscape video. We want this to be like a UGC mobile video, so we're going to go 720 by 1280 to make sure that's vertical. And finally, we're going to be able to pass in our input reference image. This is going to be this image right here, where we name it input reference. And then we're just going to grab data from the node from before to make sure that this is getting slotted here into the input reference. So that covers it here for the data setup passing off to the Sora 2 API. And if everything is successful there, you should see something that comes back with this ID that we're going to be able to use later to pull one of their endpoints to get a status and then eventually download that video. So let's do that next. So we have the initial request set up to generate the video. Next, we need to get into this polling loop here where we're going to continuously check if our video is done, since video generation takes a lot of resources and takes up a fair bit of time. So we're initially going to delay for 15 seconds here. And after that delay completes, we're going to go ahead and make another call into the Sora 2 API where we check on that video status. And so we're still using that same base URL here, but making a GET request this time. And then at the very end of the URL, we're going to go ahead and pass in that ID from the previous node where we got that ID back for our Sora 2 video generation request. So we can see that we have this video underscore followed by a lot of text at the end. That looks good to me, and that's going to check in the status of our video. And so we can see in this loop, it ran 4 times. First, it started as in progress. It stayed in progress. And then finally, on this last one, we got a completed status that came back here. And that is our signal that we can move forward with downloading our video. So that's what happens next. On this node, we're going to check the status. So is it completed or not? If it's not completed, we loop back here to this delay node and check it again and again and again until that process finishes up. And we actually get a completed status that comes back here. Once the completed status is set to true, we make a final API call, an HTTP request into the Sora 2 API, where we build up the URL, still with the base URL as view and videos. We pass in our ID, But then at the very end of this, we do /content, which tells OpenAI that we want to go ahead and download our completed video. So we see we have our final video here on the right-hand side that is 1.41 megabytes. And that all looks good for us to continue forward and actually upload that video into Google Drive. So we're going to take this data, we're going to use the file resource, the upload operation, and slot that data here as the input video file we want to actually upload into Google Drive. I just call this a Sora 2 ad as the file name, no need to get fancy. And then you're able to go through these two drop-down options for uploading it to your drive, and then just give it a folder by a URL or ID that you want that video saved into. And so that's going to complete. You're going to be able to see all this metadata that comes back here for your video file. And then if we actually go over to Google Drive, we're going to be able to see one of the ads that was just generated, where on the first frame, we have our product reference image that was uploaded. And so we'll have to cut this out in the editor before we actually publish it. But then if we play, we're going to see a scene broken down just like our source video ad that we have right here. So person in a call talking about the native product instead of Dr. Squatch, and it's forming a similar narrative while still sticking to brand guidelines. So that's the overview on how to set this up. I know there's a lot of moving parts here, so please feel free to leave a comment, a question, or anything in the comment section of this video, and we'll be watching to help answer any of that. But in short, the core work here is really just building really good context around how do we want to best write a script and spin it for our own brand and our own product.
All right, before you go, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Seriously, do it, because we're going to be breaking down all of the AI automations that we use to run all of our businesses. They're super helpful, and we're going to break down exactly how we do them on this YouTube channel. So make sure to like and then subscribe, and then you'll get notified when we publish new workflows that can make your businesses run 20 times more efficiently, just like we're seeing here at the recap and the other businesses that we're running. The other item is join our school community for free. The link's in the description. You'll be able to get this template, this automation that we just ran through in this video, completely for free. You can go to school and navigate to the video that you want, and then you can download the JSON output for the n8n automation. With that, you can upload it into your n8n, clone it, and then tune it for your business and your use cases. So like and subscribe, join our free community to get this automation for yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.